Okay, it's 1 o'clock on the West Coast, 4 o'clock on the East Coast. We'll get started now, and I will share my screen here so you can see it. And thank you for being here. We do these every Wednesday, almost always without fail. And the point of this particular webinar is to share ideas with my joint venture partners and have you be able to listen in. Now, today, all of them, I think, are busy doing something, at least at the moment, so I don't see any of them on board. So I'll just give you a little bit of a heads up on what I've been doing that I would have talked to them about directly, but since they aren't here, I'll just tell anybody who is on the webinar or watching this in a recorded mode, which, by the way, you can go to fredgleeck.com/webinars or webinar, I forget which one, and always see the most recent versions of those that have been done. Actually, been doing them for over 2 years. You can go back and watch all the archives at fredgleeck.com and then click on webinars. Okay, wow, there's Nick. Nick Shelton, one of the JV partners, is here. I haven't yet put him on, so I will, as soon as Nick comes on, I will announce him and let him know what's going on. Let's see here. He's not yet quite ready to go. Nick, I know you can't hear me yet. I'm going to unmute you temporarily. So let me just see who else is getting on here. 1 second, Nick. Then I'm going to. Nick, you should now be unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay, good. Well, welcome. Well, I'm going to have Stanley put you on as an organizer. I think we're only allowed 5 of them, so it's going to be. I'll try and shuffle around to see what we can do there. So first off, you are the latest addition to the JV partner group here, so we want to welcome you. Thanks for being here. And are you in a quiet place, by the way? Nick, that would be you we're talking to.
Oh, are you talking to me?
I am, directly.
Oh, yes, I am in a quiet place.
Good, okay, super. So now you and I are going to have a conversation right now because you are the only JV partner on, so we can talk about some things. And first off, introduce you and let people know sort of what we do. So tell me, we got together about a week ago. It's been maybe 10 days now. So you came in for the Fred Personal Boot Camp, which, by the way, for those of you who have not yet, let me just show people sort of what we're doing there. And so Fred Personal Boot Camp, this is what we put up. I threw this up quickly, Nick, just so people could get an idea. The banner hasn't been done properly, but your smiling face is here. And it's a very,
Oh, yeah.
so now, just to let people know a little bit about you, let's play this for them.
Hi, my name is Nick Shelton. I attended Fred Gleeck's Personal Boot Camp, and I chose that because I needed something that was going to be flexible with my schedule, and it was. He worked with my schedule to find a time to fit me in, and I had no real solid plan or idea of what I needed to do, and I knew that this one-on-one would really be a help. And so when I arrived, I had no idea what my niche would be and the steps that I would need to take to get it up and running and put the process into action. And upon leaving the boot camp, we've selected the niche. We have the step-by-step process on what to do. Made some connections, valuable connections in the industry, and made a great friend. Fred is a great guy, and it was just a really one of the best weekends I could have hoped for. We accomplished so much in so little time. Just a very concentrated weekend of learning and starting from nothing and putting the plan into action and already starting to put things into place. And it was a great weekend. Highly recommend the personal boot camp for the one-on-one focused attention of Fred.
So a couple things first off, I want to thank Nick for doing that, but here is an example of a testimonial, in this case, a video testimonial. And one of the things that I told Nick to do is not to try and make it, just to give me his thoughts, Nick, you did that one take. You didn't redo it, did you?
No, I didn't redo it. That was just the first take, and I was hoping it'd be it wouldn't
Yeah.
ramble too much.
And the nice thing about it is the key thing in any video testimony is it's real. And so I didn't want to try and have Nick do anything specific, but you can, I think, see from that that those are the kind of testimonials I think that work best. So thank you for doing that, and that's a good example. Now let's tell people a little bit about, first off, your niche, and that niche is, so Nick Shelton. His niche is, and why don't you tell people?
It is helping African American men find, meet, and marry the Asian woman of their dreams.
Find, meet, and marry the Asian woman of their dreams. Now, when you first came, when we first got together, you had really a few different possible ideas of what we could do, and
Yes.
I started asking Nick about. Whoops, there's my little stupid reminder here. I started asking Nick about what his personal situation was, and he told me a little bit about him, and he'd just been married recently, et cetera, et cetera. And so I really sort of started asking him more about that. And as it turns out, Nick had been sort of running around the world, really, in both an attempt to see the world and to find a mate, possibly over the last 14 years. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so I think it's pretty instructive because what we did is, he did a lot of his research online, and then he ended up marrying an Asian gal, although, he went to Latin America and other places. But so what we did is we tried to take, so if you were to take the big niche here, it's, I guess you would say, the big niche is finding a mate. And then if we wanted to get more specific under the topic, so it would be finding a mate as an African American male, and then under that, specifically then, we're looking for Asian women. And this is because this is what just sort of happened with Nick. So we were trying to take his personal situation and
It could have
just
been
use it.
international next, so you could go international,
Good
just
point. Good point.
and then you can break it down to Asian.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so it's from finding a mate to finding a mate as an African American male to international women, then broken down finally to Asian women, Asian woman or Asian women. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that is the progression. So now, what I told Nick that we had to do was the first real thing that sort of starts the whole process was to start outlining and start to get writing on a book. So now let's pick up by actually, sort of figuring out where you are in that process. So my sort of mandate to you was, okay, let's get working on the book. And so the book outline, is that done?
Yes, the book outline is it has been changing as I've been going, but yes, have the basic outline and have started the the first sections of it. Haven't got to the main meat of it, but making progress. I'm about I'd say 6,000 words in so far.
Got it. Now, did you start? One of the things that I was saying is it's oftentimes a good idea to start with the introduction and the conclusion and to write those first. Did you do that, or did you opt to go another way?
I did do the introduction. I didn't do the conclusion first. That would probably help out. And but as I've been writing, I think of extra things that I can put into the introduction as well.
Okay, so yeah, and that's going to happen. So as you're writing it, so you're now, by the way, good job. You're up to 6,000 words, and that's
Yeah.
you've been averaging at least what 500 a day, right?
Yeah, it hasn't been. So I guess the average would be like that, yes. But some days it's been more than others.
Yeah, but so I think you've been. It's going to be 2 weeks this Friday, so it's been almost exactly. So I think you've been doing about 500 a day, 5 times 12 or so. I think that's about right. So you're up to 6,000 words. and the target that we set was to get to 50,000 words. And so you're over 10% there, which is good.
Yes.
And didn't we set we tried to set April 1st as the deadline, right?
March 1st is the deadline that I set. I like
Holy
my
crap.
deadlines to be, I like crunch time to come a lot faster.
Okay, March 1st is a deadline to finish. Now, do you think that's realistic?
Yes, for the rough draft, my plan is to get a good rough draft out, and then I'm going to go through it with the wife to see if she feels that I need to add some more things that I might have forgot, and then I was going to go over it with you to see if there's places in there where you think that I might be able to add some more information that I might have missed or didn't think about.
Yeah, I think this is great. But also, let me just point out a few things. Number one, having the cooperation, and in this case, the collaboration of your spouse certainly doesn't hurt. Now, when you got back to Denver and started telling her about things, was she enthusiastic and excited?
Yeah, she was. She still is. Yeah, she's eager to help where she can.
Spousal participation preferred, but as a minimum tolerated. So I think that you got quite a bit more than that. That's great. So she's enthusiastic about the process as well. She's obviously giving you input, et cetera, and that's great. So now, give me an idea at this point, looking at your outline. I don't know if you have it in front of you, but as we went through it and sort of created the outline, how many points? And in this, now we're speaking. I just told you to brainstorm ideas. So those ideas, some of them will be folded into other chapters. So how many total chapters do you think we have?
Well, when we came up with
God, I'm
those
sick.
points, we ended up, I have it here, we ended up with 43, but then a lot of those, we were trying to figure out how to write the book, and that was sort of the outline for if I was writing it as my story on what happened with me. But then, since I'm going to write it more like a how to step by step on how somebody else would do it, and then weave in some of my story points, it changed how the outline was. And so I would say we're it knocked off probably about 10, we're about maybe 41 chapter, or no, wait, 31, sorry, 31 chapters.
Okay, and so in this case, you're going to have a lot of chapters, and if you're doing, shooting for 50,000 words, that means that each of these chapters is probably going to be somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 words on average.
Yes.
Good, and I meant 2,000 rather than 200 here.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so good. So now, have you found yourself, and this is good instruction for other people who are watching and maybe doing this process themselves. You said you've written the 6,000 words. Did you try and write a complete section before moving on, or how did you do it?
I know, so well, I'll start off on one section and then I write all I can think of at the time on that, and then I'd move to the next one, and then sometimes while I'm writing that, something pops into my brain about the section that I wrote before, and then I'll go back and then add a little bit to it, and then I come back to the next section. And there's certain parts that I'm really eager to write about, so I'll skip to those instead of just going down the outline step by step. There might be something that I come home in the evening and I really am excited to write about a certain part. So then I'll just write that part, and then I'll just kind of plug it in to where it goes a little later on.
Okay, so tell me and everybody else whether or not what did you find to be the easiest and the most difficult part of the process so far?
Let's see. Well, the easiest I think is uh, just hmm. I don't know if anything has been super easy. I'm trying to think of what would stand out. Uh, I know the hardest part is actually the sitting down and writing the book, because I know the steps, but it's to try to put it out into a step-by-step form that would be easy for someone to follow, and trying to think of, because I don't want to just assume that they know uh, everything that I would know and just speak to them as a person that's been around the world.
Yep.
I have to break it down into the basics, so it's a little difficult to try to think of someone with new eyes looking at this, coming in, not really knowing about it, and trying to make sure that I include all the parts that they might be confused about and make sure that everything's clear. And so that's a little difficult. Um, but the easy part, I think, is once I know what it is that I'm supposed to be writing about, then yeah, it's not a big deal for me to actually sit down and write about it.
Okay.
It's
So
just
now, how did you get over? I won't even write that down here. So, how did you get over the sitting down and writing part? So now, have you set yourself a specific time that you write, or how are you doing it?
no, so I know it'd be different for everybody, but so I had a few days off of work, so on sometimes in the morning after breakfast, I would sit down, write a little bit, and then I might go bowling or something like that, and then come back and write a little bit, and then in the evening, I try to take a nice section of time and that I'm undisturbed and can just sit down and really knock out some big blocks, because I know that I set that deadline pretty soon, and I want to make my deadline, so I know that I have to really get on it. So I I make sure that I put the time in, but at the same time, like I told my wife, what good is finding, meeting, and marrying the Asian woman of your dreams if you don't spend any time with her? So I make some time for her, and then I make some time for the book. And everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, so it's all your priorities. Everyone can make time if they want to, and it doesn't have to be a lot. But I try to you had told me that it's good to try to shoot for 1,000 words a day, and so sometimes it might be a little less, and sometimes it has ended up being quite a bit more. It just depends.
I think that March 1st was a very, very ambitious deadline. And so I think that, again, for you to hit the March 1st deadline, you'd probably have to be writing 3,000 words a day for the next 14 days.
Yes, it'll be a challenge, but I still like to. For me, I work best under a little pressure with the deadline there, so I have to put that as a motivational tool for myself.
Excellent. Okay, good. So now the thing about it is that as you're doing this, one of the things that we talked about that is really most helpful in helping you to finish the book, have you by any chance contacted the book cover designer Steve yet?
Let's see. No,
Steve,
I did not. I
because
did not
and
contact.
again, let me just take you over to that's Vector. So this is Steve's site, Steve at Vector.com. I've been using him recently, and he's done some really good work. In fact, the two of them, two joint venture clients, are right here. Here's the Bill DeWeese cover, and here's the Gil Phelan cover. So let's take a look at each of these. So here's Bill DeWeese's book cover, and that's what it looks like. And so that that was one of Steve's designs, and then the one he did for Gil is this one. These are both two other joint venture partners here. You can see those, right, Nick?
Yes.
And with both of them, one of the things that I recommended is my recommendation is get the cover designed, and it will be easier to finish the book. The reason why is because you can sort of visualize what the thing's going to look like when it's done, and therefore it's a little bit more there's a little bit more incentive to get it done. I remember when Bill DeWeese saw, the cover here. I mean, Gil just was like you. He just sat down and wrote it in about 3 weeks. But Bill was really spurred to finish the book, when he saw this.
Yes, it's a
So
good cover.
yeah, it's a great cover, and I mean, I think you did a good job on both of these. So you may want to have a conversation with Steve at this point. And now he told me though that he thinks that he works pretty much on an hourly basis or a per project basis. He's now changed his pricing a little bit. But the nice thing is, neither of these book covers cost, I think, again, don't quote me exactly, but both of them cost around $500 a piece. And book cover designers often charge much more. So this is a very, very good and a very fair price on the stuff. Now the thing is that the book cover designer, and everybody should understand this, including you, Nick, is this spine here, the how to start the spine of a book, cannot be determined until the book is complete because we don't know the total number of pages. So it's important to get the book done. Also, you have to make sure to include what's called the front matter of the book, and that's all the copyright stuff and possibly a CIP data block. Now, a CIP data block is something that you normally contract with a company that is good at putting these together, and I've done it with a couple different firms, and they create this CIP data block, which basically tells libraries where this book should go. And it's something that is probably important. Then there's the copyright information, and that is form TX from the government. So if we go here to, and we add a tab, form TX for copyright, the government form will, right here, will pull up, and this is form TX that you must fill out to copyright the work. When the physical book is done, you have to send this in along with 2 good copies of the book itself, and then it's formally copyrighted. I think that costs about $30. But the thing that we can do almost immediately, and this is where we have a little bit of a jump start, is as soon as writing is complete, the Kindle version of the book can be put up almost instantly. So that means now, have you gone yet, Nick, to kdp.amazon.com and signed up yet?
No, I'm confused, so I'm pretty sure I didn't do what. No, I did not go there.
Okay, well let me list that for you. So kdp.amazon.com is where you need to go to create an account to allow you to sell this book, other books, and other articles. So when you go there, and once you have it set up, when you go to kdp.amazon.com, it's all automatically going to assume that this is me here, so I sign in. And if I look at my bookshelf here, entries 50, you'll see that I've got about 30 different offerings here of various books and articles that I've written. And eventually you're going to have a bunch of these as well. But the first thing you're going to have up is the book. So when you go to, now when I add a new title, now once you sign in, you're going to go through and you're going to create a shell, and you're going to find this form in front of you. You're going to hit add a new title, and it's going to ask you these questions. Enter your book details, edition number, you can leave that blank. The publisher, that's going to be, now again, we may want to come up with a name for the publishing company associated with this entity. Now, you and I talked about this, you may want to make it fairly generic, but you should come up with a name for the publishing firm. Now, again, this is a question to ask accountants. Are you going to set up, a sub S corporation, a C corp, and all these things? And I don't know if did you say you had someone that you were going to be in touch with about this issue?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
So,
so once that entity name is created, it should be generic enough. Now, since most of the things you're going to be doing, will relate to publishing and the like, but I mean, you may go into other niches. So I don't want you to name it something like Nick Shelton Publishing, because then it's going to look like a self-published book. So
right,
it might be good to put, and something like NS Enterprises or NS Publishing Incorporated, and to have that as the main the main entity that you create. Because when you go here and it says who's the publisher, it's going to look self-published, and we don't want it
right,
to when the thing is available for sale. But you're going to have to fill in all this information, verify your publishing rights. This is not a public domain where target your book to customers. Now, this is where it gets interesting, is when you have to choose the categories. So let me just show you how this works here. So in this case, so you have to look through here. So we'll look for, if we can find something having to do with, I guess this might be, I guess this might go under the category of self-help. And this is one where you have to sort of check a bunch of different things here. Let's just see if there's anything. Let's start from the top. Antiques and collectibles, obviously, architecture, art, Bible, blah, 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 body, mind, business, graphic novels, etc., blah, 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 fiction. So probably the best place for you, at least you'd think, to start, it might be reference. Let's try reference, or self-help, but let's try reference for a second. Reference, handbooks and manuals, perhaps. Yeah, but that doesn't really look right, so I don't like that. Cancel. Let's go to self-help. And all of this is going to be done once you set up your kdp.amazon account, right?
yes.
Okay, so then we go to, reference, general, curiosities and wonders, etiquette, personal and practical guides, weddings, almost. Let's try self-help though. Self-help. What if they have dating or relationships, perhaps? Let's look under relationships. Sexual instruction, not quite yet. Let's see here.
Wow. You'd think they'd have it.
Yeah, let's see here. So, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So, social science, I don't know. Dating. You'd think there'd be a search function. So we could always go to our good friends at Google and put, what category would a dating book be in Amazon? So now what we can do is we can look for other people's books on this topic and see where they categorized it. So this one, it's not him, it's you, the truth you want. That sounds like, oh, find a husband after 35. Okay, so this one is really right in our area here. So let's see where she put this one. Okay. Let's see here. This is in what category? I always have a hard time finding the category here. Might be up at the top. No. Yeah, they make this a little bit more difficult than it needs to be. Huh. see here. Yeah, where is this? What category is it in? Wait a second. Okay. Books on topics. Online dating. Let's just see if this one gives us more information somewhere here. Ah. Okay, let's see here. Book advanced search. It usually shows where they're categorizing it. Let's see. Okay, so books. Now we're in the general category here. Is there something on relationships or dating? I can't believe that it doesn't tell us. That's what's screwy about this. This is why Amazon sometimes is a little bit difficult to figure out. I thought it would be right in this area, but evidently now, where is it giving it category here? Okay.
I'm pretty sure I've seen it before.
Yeah, me too. This is why I'm
some
confused
kind of breakdown.
that it's not, it's not giving us the category that it's in. I'm going to ask, you know what, just like with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I'm going to ask the audience. What we're looking for here is specifically how to find which categories a book is put into Amazon. And when you go through the stuff that they give you at Amazon, you have to categorize it. But of course, trying to find that category once you're at the book is difficult to do here. And it's kind of, I can't believe it should be right in this area right here, but it's not, of course. Nuts. I can't figure it out. Okay, so if anybody knows, put it up in the question area if you know how to find where a book is categorized, because when you go to Amazon at kdp.amazon.com, they ask for this. So when I sign in here, I say I want to do a new title. Now, any of the titles that I have, I've done this with, but one of the things that you have to do is you have to go into their categories. And again, this is why they, I wish they would understand. Let's take a look here. Let's see if we can figure it out real quick, because this is important. Okay, because if you don't put it in the right category, you're kind of screwed. So performing let's see here. Reference self-help. Now self-help sounds like it might be right. Self-help, and let's look at personal growth, spiritual. It's just like, come on. You should be able to put in a category and it tells you where it's supposed to go. What about relationships or family and relationships? Okay, I think I got it. I'll bet it's under here. Interpersonal relationships, love and romance, marriage. Here we go. So let's get family and relationships, and it's under the category of marriage, one would hope. I would think that's where you'd put it. Or love and romance. Makes sense, right? Or not interpersonal, because this is much more. So it's got to be one of these two. Are you following? Can you see on the screen here?
Yes.
So that's where it's going to go. Okay, so somebody says on the product detail page, let's take a look at this. See if, okay, let's see if this is dating, books. Pull up the one that comes up first. Doesn't really matter what it is. We go to the bottom, person said. Oh yeah, here we go. Nice, thank you. Thank you for that. So look here. So it's books, health, fitness, and dieting, relationships, love, and romance. So it's definitely going to be, if you follow this path here, advice, how to, health, mind, body, relationships, love, and romance. You see this, right, Nick?
Yes.
So that's what we're going to have to do. So it's, and this one is books, health, fitness, and dieting, relationships, love, and romance. So that's where we want to be. Good deal. So you have to look at the bottom of every category. So if I go to any book having to do with dating, presumably best dating, let's see if that's the same thing. Go down here to the bottom. Yes. So they, and again, people can categorize and put their book anywhere they want. The key is to put it in the right place so people can find it. So here's books, self, relationships, love, and romance. In the Kindle store, it's Kindle ebooks, advice, how to, health, mind, and body, relationships, love, and romance. So there you have it. After God knows how long searching, we finally found where to go. But that's part of your process, is to set up a publishing or an entity, something different than your own name, because if it's Fred Gleeck Productions, then it's obvious that if I'm the author, that I'm also the publisher, and so it's self-published. We want to make it look like. Now, for a while, I was using this, the No Bull Press, like Noble Press, but it was No Bull Press, and I still have that registered. But that's the kind of thing. So then, under the entity of your publishing company, I just don't want you to have to set up multiple entities, Nick, and spend more money.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is have you set up one sort of overarching company that will serve as the publishing company, because basically you are going into the publishing business, which is you're going to be selling books, ebooks, audios, videos, seminars, etc., for showing African American men how to marry the Asian woman of their dreams, and expand that into other areas as well, which we talked about. So therefore, we don't want to make this specific in the name, having to do with something like, marry an Asian woman incorporated, because we may want to change or add some focus later on, as we've discussed, right?
Right.
So we want to keep the entity itself relatively generic. So that's good. Okay, so we have a good idea here of what's going on, and so you're going to first. The nice thing is with doing the Kindle is you can have this book up and running pretty quickly. Now, by the way, when you speak to Steve at Vector, he's the guy that does the book covers. You tell him you want both the quote-unquote regular cover for the physical book and a 2D cover to use for the Kindle store. I've told him that enough now that he should know what you're doing. So basically what that's going to be is, if we go back to Vector, it's basically going to be this portion of the book right here, just sort of cut down. So it's just going to be this area without the spine. And he's going to give you a copy of that. And by the way, when you go to kdp.amazon.com, that's one of the things that they ask you to do when you upload your Kindle book, is when you add a new title, in addition to everything else we've gone through here, upload your book cover is the next thing. So that's where you browse for the image, you get the image that Steve sent you, and it would appear here, and it would appear when they see the thumbnails of your books in the Kindle store. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, so then when you go to Amazon and you go into the Kindle store and you look up my name, and then, so any of the things that appear here are those 2D covers. And when I do articles, by the way, I get a guy from Fiverr.com to do these very simple 2D covers you're seeing here. Oops. I don't know what happened, but anyway, you know what I'm doing. So, Nick, any questions on that?
No questions. I think it's pretty clear, but I know where to go if I do have questions.
Good. Okay, so now what you're going to do then is you're going to spend the next 2 weeks here getting this thing written. Now, the nice thing is that, as Nick just told us earlier, he's got about 31 different categories. So with 31 categories, which presumably will become chapters or even thereabouts, he then can create, later on, additional products from each of these. So, he may have a product that he creates, and again, we're not really worried about price points yet, but he could create a product. One of your topics might be, traveling, to the various places, and you may have, as I think you will, you're going to have some specific guides for different countries, correct? Nick, you with me still?
Yes, I will.
Yeah. And so you're going to have specific
Yes.
guides for different countries and things like that. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Oh, I was just agreeing with you that yes, I will have some different countries and maybe some special reports.
Yeah, and all that. It starts though with these 31 categories, which is why we do the book first. It makes a lot of sense to do that because from that everything else can result. For example, give you a good example. Bill DeWeese and I just finished our last speaker to voice talent. We finished the last leg of this project last night. I'll stop this because it's an auto start here. And this is showing people in the speaking business how to get into the voiceover business. Well, one of the things that we talked about is we started brainstorming who are the various people that want to get into the voiceover business. And they included things like salespeople, speakers, pastors, teachers, believe it or not, video producers, because they sometimes get asked. So we created a whole list of these. And what Bill and I are going to do is now we're going to create individual products for each of these niches. And the reason for that is that if you go to a site, and let's say you're interested in getting into the voiceover business, and you go to a site that sells voiceover products, and there's one product there on how to get into the voiceover business. You see that, and then you see Bill's site, which says how to get into the voiceover business as a teacher. Now, all of a sudden, if you're a teacher, you're going to go, oh, now here, this is the real stuff. Because for you as a teacher, if you're looking for stuff, you're thinking, oh, that product is specifically geared to me. So in order to create, and what we're doing is each of these programs, by the way, will run 4 to 5 hours in length. So yes, we're producing separate products for each of these categories listed here, possibly more, each 4 hours in length, each selling for probably somewhere between $100 and $200. Now, why do that? Well, because if you're trying to dominate a niche or an industry, if somebody goes to your site, especially a potential competitor, and sees that you have a boatload of stuff, their chances of wanting to compete with you go way down. So our goal for Bill is to have so many products up there on such specific topics that anyone trying to compete with him in the voiceover space will just go, forget it, not worth it. Does that make sense, Nick?
Yes, it does.
Good, okay. So there you have it, and we have a lot of information, a lot of things for you to do between now and the next time we see you next Wednesday. We want to hear the update next Wednesday. If you can be on the webinar as well, and I will try and if you can send me an email to remind me to have Stanley put you in as a participant, not as a participant, but as a I forget what we call them, as a organizer or something like that.